So I've been meaning to run through the entirety of the God of War franchise, front to back, top to bottom, for an obscene amount of time. And unfortunately, I just never got around to it until I realized that RAGNAROK had been sitting in my backlog for something like 2 years after its release. So I finally sat myself down and said it was time to get this thing done. Speaking of RAGNAROK, we will of course be getting to it in due time, but as the old saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And our initial step is going to be ranking the Greek saga. Starting, of course, as always, at the bottom of our list with the original God of War, which isn't to say that it's a bad game in any way, shape, or form. It's just not the one that I feel the most nostalgic for. It's not the one that brought me to the dance, so to speak. It's got the curse of being the first installment in a long-running franchise, and I just don't think it's aged particularly well. This is where we get those early iterations of enemy designs. I've never really been a fan of the way that the gods interact with Kratos in this one. And for me, the pacing just felt a little bit off. It's slow. You know, we just haven't hit our stride in terms of the flow between regular levels and boss fights. So that is why it takes up the worst spot on this list. Above it, though, we have Chains of Olympus. Now I know that Kratos' 10-year servitude to the gods leaves a fairly significant gap in the timeline, and obviously we have to fill it with something, right? And what better way than to tell a story of Kratos saving the world from a vengeful Persephone who seeks to cause all of existence to collapse on itself. The thing is, though, is that while I was playing these, I realized that what I was primarily invested in was Kratos himself. His backstory, his lore, his development, what have you. And that's not what the primary focus of this game is. So I just walked away feeling like it's good. It was perfectly fine. Maybe just not my thing. Maybe just not for me. Dead center in our list, though, we have Ascension. I really like what this game sought to do in terms of expanding on the issues between Ares and Kratos in the early days of his servitude, as well as giving context and purpose to why Ares tricked him into murdering his family. Despite liking it, though, I just can't escape the feeling like I have to punish it. I have to slap its hand a little bit. Because this is a prequel that just doesn't have enough connective tissues to the game that comes after it, to the original game. And what I mean by that is that Ascension does its best to, make Ares into a proper villain. He has a diabolical scheme in which he seeks to overthrow and possibly kill, I don't really remember, his father. Fast forward to the original game, and Ares is destroying Athens to make his father pay attention to him, and seeking the favor of his father. So essentially, we go from him being this pretty viable villain to an angsty teenager who's not getting enough attention from daddy, right? And it's I'm okay with what it tries to do. I'm okay with them making a prequel. You just gotta make it line up. In cases like that, those little details that you probably don't think that much about really tend to matter, at least to me. And just the blatant differences, the blatant, dual Aries here just kind of ruin a lot of the aspects of Ascension for me personally. In third place, we have Ghosts of Sparta. Primary reason is see everything, refer to everything that I said about Chains of Olympus. It focuses on Kratos. It's all about him, and I love it. We get to know who his biological father is. We learn that he's had a long imprisoned brother in regards to the prophecy that drives a lot of the tension between Zeus and Kratos throughout the series. And this is kind of our introduction to the earliest introduction we have to that prophecy. And I also happen to be a pretty big fan of the tag team boss fight between Kratos, Deimos, and Death. Like I just thought that was one of the boss fights that really stuck out to me in the series. So that's Ghost of Sparta in third place. Now, the next two are going to be kind of a 1-2 punch, because I feel like once I say what my runner-up is, it's obviously going to give away what my number one is, and I can hear a lot of people groaning. But number two, my runner-up, is God of War 2. Now this is the one that I'm nostalgic for. You got to remember that at the time that this came out, I was not allowed anywhere near games like this. So in terms of exposure, I would live vicariously through my childhood friend whose parents didn't give a crap what he did. And you want to talk about games that make an impact and quite possibly change your life, this was it. I'll never forget the first time he showed me the whole opening sort of chapter with the Colossus of Rhodes, and him and Kratos being killed by Zeus and sent to Hades. This craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And in the early days of YouTube, I remember going home and just watching the final boss fight between Kratos and Zeus over and over again, just being completely captivated by the intensity, the violence, the brutality, all of that. And those memories are just gonna stay with me forever. Which, of course, brings us to the only game left, my number one at the top of my list, God of War 3. Now, before I get into explaining myself here, let me just say that I would completely be willing to concede the fact that God of War 2 is the far superior game, all the way around. I just really, really enjoyed God of War 3. I really enjoyed the chaos that it brings. The idea of Kratos headhunting Olympians is just really, really cool to me. And I know there was a lot of criticism from fans. You know, I've heard everything from Kratos being a really hollow, one-dimensional type character to the game's story being nothing but a testosterone-fueled, um, blood-soaked, just hyper-violent sort of thing. And I'm sitting here going, well, yeah, but that's the entire point. You know, if you've played the series one right after the other, like I did, and you're looking at everything through Kratos' eyes from his perspective as the protagonist, there's 101 reasons that explain, you know, how and why we ended up where we are. This is a guy that has. This is the culmination of that journey, right? That he's a guy that has lost everything precious to him, and he wants to see the world burn. He's got nothing left to fear. He is the very, very definition of zero F's given. And, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a titan or a god or everything in between, you're not safe, and nothing is going to stop him from taking his revenge. And I just love that story, that climax, the idea that we're just going to go balls to the wall, we're going to let the blood flow more than it's ever flowed before, and we're just not going to care about anything other than murder and just causing the collapse of Mount Olympus and the Pantheon and everything. So yes, it is a simple story. Yes, it might be a basic, lacking story, but as a finale of everything that we've gone through and he has gone through, I just can't help but love it. Now I am aware that there are some bigger, more glaring issues with this game, which I absolutely plan to cover in greater depth in the next video. So until then, guys, take care, and we'll see you later.